The Human First Disruption Manifesto. I am the author, Jean Hamilton-Ford, and today we're going to read Chapter 3, The Myth of Collaboration. You've been taught that the future is collaborative, that shared vision is the gold standard, that we rise by joining hands, building bridges, pooling resources. But here's the rupture: collaboration without coherence is just collective confusion. If you enter the room fragmented, the room does not heal you, it mirrors your fragmentation. Let's not romanticize the group. Community is not the salve. Shared purpose is not a shortcut to wholeness. Here's what I know to be true: most people are seeking resonance through proximity instead of presence. You've seen this everywhere: people gathering in the name of collaboration, but if you look closely, they're really trying to compensate for something missing in themselves. They talk about alignment, but what's actually happening is everyone slowly becoming the same person. Watch how people enter these spaces genuinely hungry for belonging and then gradually shapeshift until they've lost themselves just to survive there. That is not resonance. That is erasure. From collaboration to co working. So let's stop calling it collaboration. That word has been emptied of meaning and turned into a buzzword that promises connection while delivering performance. Let's call it what it actually is: co working. The conscious choice to work alongside others who honor your wholeness while you honor theirs. Not the fantasy of seamless harmony, but the reality of distinct individuals choosing to weave their gifts together. Co working requires no consensus about who you should be, it only asks that you show up as who you are. The performance of connection. You know the difference. You've felt it in your body, that contraction when something isn't right, that expansion when it is. Maybe it was a meeting that left you questioning your own worth, or a partnership where you gave more energy than you received. Perhaps you found yourself shape shifting to fit someone else's vision of success, wondering why victory felt so hollow. You were not built to disappear inside the group. You were built to bring your full signal into the space and let it resonate, not dilute. Let's name what performative connection looks like. It shows up when someone collects contacts but never makes real connection, or when saying yes to everything becomes easier than saying no to anyone. You see it in the team player who silences their dissent to keep the peace, and in entrepreneurs who partner from desperation rather than alignment. Leaders do it too, seeking consensus when what's needed is clarity. This isn't bad intention, it's survival strategy. Most people, so they enter co working relationships already negotiating their essence before the conversation even begins. The hunger for belonging. You've felt the difference between belonging and fitting in, even if you couldn't name it. True belonging doesn't ask you to change, it recognizes who you already are. But fitting in, that requires you to become someone else, to let your edges be smoothed away until you disappear into what others need you to be. Belonging invites you to come as you are and stay as you are, contributing from your fullness rather than your performance. Integration honors your uniqueness as necessary for the whole, while inclusion asks you to blend your edges. Pardon me. Inclusion asks you to blend until your edges disappear. When you're truly seen, your full humanity is recognized. When you're consumed, your gifts are extracted while your complexity gets discarded. You've been hungry for belonging, but accepting invitations to fit in. And every time you shapeshift to survive in a space, you lose a little more access to your own signal. So the question becomes, are you seeking coherence or are you compensating for disconnection? Are you drawn to the room because your truth is burning brighter or because you're too afraid to stand alone? We don't ask this to shame. We ask this to liberate. The seduction of shared vision. Group synergy is not the enemy, but it cannot be the solution until you become whole within yourself. The most seductive co working opportunities promise to complete you, offering to fill the gaps and provide what you lack. They seduce you with the possibility of making up for what you haven't yet developed in yourself. But here's what no one tells you: external co working cannot heal internal fragmentation. If you haven't clarified your own vision, borrowing someone else's direction will feel like alignment. Lacking trust in your own judgment makes group consensus seem like wisdom, while undervaluing your unique contribution leads to disappearing into someone else's work and calling it service. The most powerful co working happens between people who are already whole, individuals who've done their own work and choose to weave their gifts together rather than seeking completion through connection. True resonance recognition. Real co working has a different quality altogether. When you're in it, you become more yourself. Your unique perspective matters, and even disagreement becomes creative fuel rather than something to avoid. You find yourself contributing from a place of abundance, and your voice gets amplified rather than diluted. You'll know true resonance because it feels like coming home to yourself while connecting with others. Your voice grows stronger in the presence of conscious witnesses who help you discover new facets of your gifts. Together, you create something extraordinary that honors everyone's essence while building something none of you could have achieved alone. The courage to stand alone. Sometimes the most co working thing you can do is refuse to co work. Maybe the chemistry feels off or the vision doesn't resonate with yours. Perhaps the process asks you to abandon pieces of yourself, or the group dynamic feels toxic despite everyone's good intentions. Here's what I know about conscious co working: it requires the willingness to walk away from opportunities that don't honor your wholeness. This isn't about being difficult, it's about being discerning. Some invitations aren't meant for you, and that's wisdom, not rejection. You'll encounter opportunities that look aligned but feel mismatched, and groups that want your gifts but can't hold your full humanity. And that's okay. When the right co working opportunities come along, they won't ask you to shrink, they'll invite you to expand. True partnerships recognize your worth immediately rather than making you prove it, while authentic communities offer belonging as a given instead of requiring you to perform it. Designing co working containers. When you choose to co work, you get to design the container consciously. Think of it like creating a space where everyone can breathe. You'll want clarity about how decisions happen and how you'll navigate conflict when it arises. Boundaries around time and energy become crucial because they protect what you're building together. As the work unfolds, checking in regularly helps you sense whether the alignment still feels alive and whether the relationship needs to evolve as you all grow. This isn't about control, it's about consciousness. You're not trying to predict every outcome. You're creating conditions where everyone can show up fully and contribute authentically. The invitation to integration. Let's challenge the default rush toward connection. Together, we're going to untangle belonging from conformity and expose those places where you've sought resonance before you had clarity about what you actually wanted. We'll explore what it means to stand in coherence rather than collapse into whatever feels familiar. Because true coherence doesn't require consensus, it requires clarity, and most people skip that part. This is not a rejection of partnership, it is a return to self leadership. You don't need more aligned people. You need to become the kind of human your vision can rely on. When you are that clear, resonance becomes effortless because you are no longer negotiating your own frequency to be there. As you learn to distinguish between true co working and performative connection, you naturally become more attuned to the signals your nervous system sends about people and situations. Your body becomes a compass for navigating relationships and opportunities with greater wisdom. Next, we'll explore what it means to trust your nervous system as the ultimate guidance system. Reflection and practice. Let this be your invitation to feel the difference between belonging and fitting in. The recognition. You already know which co working relationships expand you and which ones contract you. Your body registers the difference immediately. The breath that deepens in true partnership versus the shoulders that tightened in performative connection. That knowing has always been there. Honest inventory. Think about your current co working opportunities, partnerships, and group involvements. Where do you feel more yourself? Where do you feel like you're wearing a costume? Where are you contributing from fullness versus trying to fill a gap in yourself? The boundary experiment. Practice saying, let me think about it, instead of immediately saying yes to co working opportunities. Notice what your nervous system tells you in that pause. What feels expansive? What feels contractive? What feels like compensation? Integration practice. Before entering any group dynamic this week, take 3 breaths and ask, am I entering this space to give something or to get something? Both are valid, but knowing which one creates consciousness about your participation. For the gentle revolutionaries, if recognizing performative patterns brings up sadness about energy you've given away or authenticity you've compromised, let that grief be welcome. It's not evidence of failure, it's evidence of awakening. Your awareness is already changing the pattern. You don't need to be perfect at co working, you need to be present for it. And next time we will read chapter 4, The Nervous System as Compass. And I'll see you again very soon.